In the next 15 minutes, no jumping, no impact, no destroyed joints, you are going to burn more fat than most people do in a 45-minute cardio session. I know that sounds like a headline. I know you've heard promises like that before. So before I explain anything, let me show you exactly why this works and why everything else probably hasn't. You know what nobody tells you when you hit your 30s or 40s, maybe even your late 20s? They never tell you that the thing that's supposed to fix you is what starts breaking you. You wake up one morning, you're trying to get back in shape, so you do exactly what every fitness influencer screams at you to do. You run hard, you jump, you smash burpees until your lungs give out. 2 days later, your knees are on fire, your hips are clicking, your lower back is having a conversation with you in a language you do not want to understand. The brutal irony? You were trying to get healthy. If you're the kind of person who genuinely wants to move better, feel stronger, and stop choosing between effort and injury, this is the video you've been waiting for. And by the time we get to movement 3 in this protocol, you're going to understand something about your body that most personal trainers never explain. Something that changes everything about how you train for the rest of your life. Stay with me. Before we go any further, drop a comment right now. Tell me, knees, hips, or lower back, which one has been giving you the most trouble? I read every single one. If you're new here, my name is Dr. Thorne, and this is Primal Unleashed, and I need you to know something about what we do here before we go any further. We are not a fitness channel. We are a reclamation movement. Modern life has done something insidious to the human body. It made us sedentary, stiff, and soft, and then it turned around and sold us extreme solutions to fix the damage it created. $1,000 treadmills, high-impact boot camps, joint supplements. It is a system that profits from your pain, and most of the fitness content you see online is part of that system, whether it knows it or not. Here at Primal Unleashed, we operate by something different. We call it the Silverback standard. Look at a silverback gorilla. Pound for pound, one of the most powerful, capable animals on Earth. It does not destroy its body to stay strong. It moves with purpose. It moves functionally. It builds tension from the ground up using the full architecture of what a body was designed to do. Our mantra, modern life makes us soft. Primal movement makes us unbreakable. We don't just lift weight, we reclaim our nature. That is the standard this workout is built on. Here's something you can use right now, even before we get to the protocol. The single fastest way to reduce joint pain during any workout is to stop training muscles and start training movement patterns. Your knees don't hurt because your quads are weak. They hurt because the entire chain, hip, knee, ankle, has lost its coordinated firing sequence from years of sitting. One thing changes everything. Whenever you train a lower body movement, squeeze your glutes first. Hold that for 2 seconds, then move. That one cue alone will shift a load off your joints and onto the muscles that were designed to carry it. File that away. We'll build on it in a few minutes. Let me tell you something I don't always talk about. About 4 years ago, I was in the worst physical shape of my life. Not because I wasn't trying, I was trying. I was doing HIIT classes 4 times a week. I was tracking macros, I was following the programs, and I was in chronic pain. My right knee had been sore for 8 months. My lower back was tight every single morning. I was 41 years old, and I felt like 60. And the worst part wasn't the pain. The worst part was that I knew better. I had the degrees, I had the research, I had the knowledge to know that what I was doing was wrong, and I kept doing it anyway because it was the only model I knew. That season of my life is why this protocol exists. It took me breaking myself to finally figure out how to build something that wouldn't. I'm telling you this because I know you might be there right now, or somewhere close to it, trying hard, getting inconsistent results, paying it for your body. And I want you to know that is not a failure of willpower. That is a failure of the system you were given. Let me be specific about what that system does to you. You're busy. I mean genuinely, legitimately busy. Not I watched Netflix for 3 hours busy. You're operating at capacity. The idea of carving out an hour for the gym most days is a fantasy that belongs to a version of you from 10 years ago. So when you find a 20-minute HIIT video online, you think, yes, this is it. Efficient, intense, fat burning. You can work this into your life. And maybe it works for about 2 weeks. Then something tweaks, something clicks wrong, and suddenly you can't train for 3 weeks because your IT band is yelling, or your wrist is sore, or your shoulder is pulling in a way that makes you genuinely nervous. Sound familiar? Here is what is actually happening in your body when you do high-impact HIIT. Box jumps, jump squats, plyometric burpees. Every single landing places between 3 and 7 times your body weight in compressive and shear force through your joints. every single landing. If your movement patterns are not precisely calibrated, and after years of sitting, most people's aren't, those forces travel through the path of least resistance. That is not your muscles. That is your cartilage, your tendons, your ligaments. You are not building fitness. You are draining a biological account that has a limited number of deposits. And here's the thing that should genuinely make you angry. Nobody tells you this. The fitness industry profits from this cycle. You get hurt, you stop training, your confidence drops, you buy the next program, the next supplement, the next solution. They need you to keep starting over. An educated, consistently moving human who understands their own body is a terrible customer. But here's the unlock, the one idea that changes all of this. The goal of high-intensity training has never been impact. Impact is a side effect of lazy programming. The actual goal is something called metabolic stress, the state where your body's demand for oxygen exceeds its supply, forcing it to burn fat as fuel. You can create that metabolic stress without a single jump, without a single joint-destroying landing, without sacrificing the next 3 weeks to recovery. And in just a few minutes, I'm going to show you the exact 5 movements that do this, including the one movement in this protocol that most people have never done before, and that produces the highest metabolic demand of anything in this workout. But first, I need to explain why most smart people still get this wrong. The fitness industry has done something very clever. It sold you the feeling of a good workout as proof of the workout's quality. That state of being absolutely obliterated, gasping, shaking, barely making it to your car has been marketed to you as the signal that you worked hard enough, that you earned something. But that feeling, that is frequently your nervous system being overwhelmed, not your metabolism being optimized. Those are not the same thing, not even close. There is a principle in exercise physiology called the minimum effective dose, the smallest stimulus that produces the desired adaptation, the exact point where more stops being better and starts being damage. For fat loss, that stimulus is achieved through consistent, progressively escalating metabolic load, not maximum destruction. Picture 2 people. Person A does a brutal 45-minute boot camp 3 times a week. They spend the day after each session exhausted. The cortisol, the stress hormone that signals the body to hold on to fat, is elevated. Their nervous system is in recovery mode. Their sleep quality tanks. Over 6 weeks, they plateau. They're exhausted, they're frustrated, and 2 of those 3 weekly sessions get quietly dropped. Person B does 15 minutes of the gorilla protocol 4 times a week. 45 minutes of total weekly training. They finish each session feeling energized. Cortisol stays controlled. Sleep improves. At 6 weeks, they're progressing, feeling good, and they haven't missed a session. Same time investment, completely different trajectory. I've watched this play out with the PrimalUnleash community for years. The people who train less, train smarter, show up more consistently, they are the ones who transform, not the ones who go hardest in January and disappear by February. And here's what I need you to feel right now. Not just understand, feel, because this matters. Your body is not broken. Your body is not too old. Your body is not past the point of transformation. Your body has been given the wrong signal. The moment you give it the right one, it responds. Every time. That is not motivational language. That is fundamental biology. Your body is a living adaptation machine. It changes in the direction of the demand you place on it. We are simply going to change the demand. Here's how this works in 15 minutes. The gorilla protocol creates metabolic demand through functional tension, sustained muscle activation across full movement chains. Your heart rate reaches the fat-burning zone and stays there without the systemic shock of repeated impact. Your body produces a hormonal response that keeps burning fat for up to 24 hours after the session ends. No joint destruction, no cortisol spike, no breakdown that costs you 3 weeks. Just signal, just adaptation, just results. Let's build it. Here's the structure of the full protocol before we go movement by movement. 3 rounds, 5 movements per round. 40 seconds of work, 15 seconds to transition. A 90-second reset between rounds 1 and round 2, and again between rounds 2 and rounds 3. The movements are sequenced deliberately. Each one primes the muscle chains for the next. That sequencing is what makes this feel almost deceptively smooth while your heart rate climbs to exactly where it needs to be. Total time, 14 minutes and 45 seconds. Let's go. Movement 1, Primal Squat Drive.
Feet just outside shoulder width, toes angled naturally, whatever your hip structure allows. Do not force external rotation if your anatomy doesn't support it. Lower into the deepest squat your current mobility allows. If that's a quarter squat today, that's where we start. Hold at the bottom for a 3 count. Feel your hip flexors lengthen, your glutes switch on, your spinal column decompress from the vertical load you've been carrying all day. Then drive through your heels. Arms swing forward, full extension at the top. Hips locked, glutes squeezed hard, core cylinder braced. Hold 1 count. Lower with control. That is 1 rep. You are going for 40 seconds. Here's what's happening. The hold at the bottom creates isometric tension in the hip complex, deep stabilizers that most people have never consciously activated. They fire, they fatigue, and that fatigue is the metabolic cost that drives your heart rate up without a single foot leaving the ground. The drive produces concentric power. The control on the descent builds eccentric strength, the exact quality that protects your knees going downstairs, hiking, or getting up from a chair 20 years from now. You are building, not breaking. Movement 2. Ground to stand bear. This is the one that humbles people fastest. This is the one that shows you exactly where your movement gaps are. Get to the floor. Push-up position. Hands directly under shoulders, toes planted. Body a straight plank. Core braced. Drive up to standing in one controlled, flowing movement. Hands push, feet step, hips hinge, spine unrolls vertebra by vertebra until you're fully upright. Then hinge at the hips, hands reach the floor, step back to your plank. That full cycle, down and up, is 1 rep, 40 seconds. This movement pattern, ground to standing, is something every primate performs dozens of times daily. It is something most modern humans stop doing in childhood and then spend the rest of their lives losing the capacity for. It requires full body coordination, shoulder stability, hip mobility, and what exercise scientists call proprioceptive control, your body's sense of where it is in space. Your entire posterior chain, glutes, hamstrings, spinal erectors, fired to manage this movement under your own body weight. No impact, no landing forces, and a metabolic cost that will surprise you completely. Movement 3. Suitcase lunge. Remember at the beginning I told you there was one movement in this protocol that most people have never done before, and that it produces the highest metabolic demand of anything here. This is not that movement, but this one sets it up perfectly. Stand tall, brace your core, not just tightening your abs, create a cylinder of pressure from your pelvic floor up through your diaphragm. That is real core activation. Step forward into a long lunge, front thigh parallel to the floor, back knee hovering 1 inch above the ground. The critical cue, your torso stays perfectly vertical, chest up, chin neutral. You are loaded like a person carrying something heavy who cannot afford to lose their posture. That vertical requirement is what transforms this from a basic lunge into a complete posterior chain exercise. Alternate legs, 40 seconds. The single leg loading of the lunge is one of the most primal movement patterns in human existence. Walking, climbing, carrying, all of them involve this asymmetrical loading. The upright torso eliminates the anterior knee shear that destroys cartilage over time and forces hip flexor length, glute engagement, and spinal integrity simultaneously. This is the movement that rebuilds the strength most desk workers have slowly lost since their 20s, and you will feel it in exactly the right places. Movement 4. Gorilla push-pull. This is it, the one I promised you. Most people have never trained this pattern, and it is the single highest metabolic demand movement in this protocol. Not because it's the hardest, but because it recruits the most total muscle fiber of anything here. Get into a hinged position, hips back, spine long, knees soft. If you have a resistance band, anchor it at chest height in front of you. No band, perform the same movement with your arms, focusing on the muscle contraction rather than the resistance.
From here, drive both elbows backwards simultaneously. Squeeze your shoulder blades together with genuine force, as if you are trying to crack a walnut between them. Hold that contraction for a full count. Feel your entire upper back fire. Then control the return. Repeat. 40 seconds. We live in a pushing world. Keyboards, steering wheels, phones, every repetitive pattern in modern life is forward and rounded. The posterior chain of the upper body, your rhomboids, your mid and lower trapezius, your rear deltoids, is the most chronically underdeveloped, most chronically underactivated muscle group in the modern human body. Weak pulling muscles create the shoulder impingements, the neck pain, the rotator cuff problems, the chronic upper back tightness that plagues virtually every office worker over 40. This movement reverses that, one session at a time. Your posture will shift, your shoulder pain will begin to recede, and here's the bonus: your chest and arms will look dramatically better, not because you trained them, but because the muscles behind them are finally doing their structural job. That is the movement. That is the payoff of doing something most people will never do. Movement 5. Primal Breathe. This is the one that looks simplest. It is the one that is hardest to do correctly. Stand with feet hip width. Place both hands on your lower abdomen. Breathe in through your nose, slowly. Feel your belly expand first, then your rib cage widen to the sides, then your lower back decompress slightly. That is a full diaphragmatic breath. On the exhale, brace, creating that cylinder of intra-abdominal pressure from the pelvic floor up through the diaphragm. Hold the brace for a 3 count, then release. Reset. Breathe again. 40 seconds. Controlled. Your diaphragm is not just a breathing muscle, it is a postural muscle. Your pelvic floor is a postural muscle. The coordination between them, the management of intra-abdominal pressure, is what protects your spine under every load you will ever carry, every squat, every carry, every movement for the rest of your life. Most people breathe wrong under physical effort. They brace at the top of an inhale and collapse on the exhale. That collapses the cylinder. The spine loses its protection, and micro damage accumulates rep after rep, year after year. This drill rewires that. It resets your nervous system between rounds. It brings your cortisol back toward baseline, and it prepares your body for the next round to produce even more output than the last. This is not the cool movement. This is the movement that makes all the other movements work. That is the Gorilla Protocol. 3 rounds, 5 movements, 40 seconds on, 15 seconds between, 90 seconds between rounds, 14 minutes and 45 seconds. Now, let me be completely honest with you. The first time you do this protocol, it is going to feel different from what you're used to. You will not be gasping in the way you've been conditioned to expect. You will not feel that obliterated, barely survived sensation that you've been told signals a real workout. And that will probably make you nervous. That small voice will say, "Did I work hard enough?" Here is what the physiology says. A properly executed Gorilla Protocol session maintains your heart rate inside Zone 3 to Zone 4, the metabolic range where your body oxidizes fat as its primary fuel, for approximately 11 of the 15 working minutes. That is an 80% work rate efficiency that most traditional cardio sessions never achieve. But the more important number is the EPOC figure. Excess post-exercise oxygen consumption, the elevated metabolic rate your body maintains after training as it returns to its baseline state. Low-impact functional training at the right intensity triggers EPOC windows of 18 to 24 hours. Your body keeps burning elevated calories while you're in a meeting, while you're cooking dinner, while you're asleep. The high-impact approach, EPOC peaks higher in the moment and is gone in 4 hours because your body's recovery priority shifts to repairing tissue damage, not continuing metabolic work. This is the trade-off nobody tells you about. You can feel like you're working harder and actually be getting fewer results because you're paying for the wrong thing with the body you only have one of. The people in this community who commit to this approach consistently report the same 3 things. They train less, they feel better, they see more results. Not because they found a shortcut, because they stopped fighting their body's design and started moving with it. That shift from force to flow, from impact to intention, is not just a training choice. It's a statement about who you are. You are not someone who needs to punish themselves to earn results. You are someone who moves because your body was made to move, and you are going to do it for a very long time.
I want to give you something before you go. I put together a free resource called the Smart Shred Guide, and I need you to understand what it is before I describe it so you know this is not a marketing exercise. It's 17 pages, no fluff, no filler. Section 1 is the complete Gorilla HIIT protocol in full, all 3 training phases, an 8-week progression map, and a movement cue library with photo references so you always know exactly what correct position looks like. Section 2 is the metabolic nutrition framework that supports this style of training. Not a diet, not a meal plan, a nutritional architecture based on primal eating patterns that reduce systemic inflammation, protect joint health, and create the hormonal conditions where fat loss actually happens, specifically calibrated for people over 30 who don't recover from bad nutrition the way a 22-year-old does. Section 3 is the recovery protocol, the piece nobody gives you, the breathing practices, the mobility sequences, the sleep architecture habits that turn training stimulus into actual physical change. Because here is the truth. Training is the signal. Recovery is where the result is built. This is free. The link is in the description. Click it. Enter your email, immediate access. I'm not charging for it because helping you first is not a marketing strategy. It's the only approach to this work that I believe in. Everything else I've built has grown from that single commitment. I want to end with something real. This video is about a 15-minute workout, but that's not what it's actually about. What it's actually about is the moment, maybe in the middle of round 2, maybe in the ground to stand bear, maybe right there in the gorilla push-pull, when your upper back fires in a way it hasn't in years, when you realize that the body you were given is still there, still capable, still responsive, still primal. Modern life works very hard to convince you that you are fragile, that your best physical years are behind you, that you should settle for modified, reduced, protected versions of what a human body can actually do, that careful is the best you can hope for. We reject that here. The Silverback doesn't ask permission to be strong. The Silverback moves because it was built to move, with purpose, with power, with precision, not in spite of its age or its demands or its complexity. Because of them. That is who you are.
Underneath the desk, the commute, the screen, the weight of everything you carry, there's a primal human being whose body has been waiting for the right signal. Today was that signal. Now, move. If this gave you something real today, something you can actually use, I want to ask you one thing. Not to subscribe, not for me, but think about someone in your life who is grinding themselves into the ground trying to get fit and getting hurt or frustrated or giving up instead. You know someone. Share this with them. That person needs this more than the algorithm does. If you want more of this, the science, the protocols, the honest conversation about what actually works, subscribe and hit the bell. Every week, we go further into movement science, primal nutrition, recovery, and everything the body was built for. And if you're ready for what comes next week, I'm releasing something I've been building for months. It's the PrimalUnleash Full Body Strength Protocol. No barbells, no gym required, designed specifically to build the kind of functional strength that actually transfers to real life, the kind of strength a Silverback carries. I'll put the link up here when it drops. Don't miss it. The Smart Shred Guide is in the description below. Grab it now. I'm Dr. Thorne. This is Primal Unleash, and we will see you next week.